الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. All praise is due to Allah, and may Allah's peace and blessings be on the last Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and on all those who follow the path of righteousness until the last day. Scholars of the past used to refer to what they called the two wings of faith. That faith was described metaphorically as being like a bird with two wings. Without these two wings, the bird cannot fly. With only one wing, the bird cannot fly. It requires these two in order to fly successfully, to achieve its goals, and to fulfill its purpose. Those two wings were extracted from a number of sayings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sayings which address the most critical issues that people in this life are faced with. Issues that they have to deal with, they have to overcome in order to be successful in this life. In order for us to find our way to the straight path and to remain on it, there are two critical characteristics that each and every one of us must have or acquire. These two are mentioned in a hadith narrated by Suhaib ibn Sinan, in which he quotes Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam as saying, "Ajaban li amri al-mu'min, inna amrahu kullahu lahu khair, wa laysa dhalika li ahadin illa lil-mu'min." The affair of the believer is amazing. His or her whole affair is good, and that is only in the case of the believer, the true believer. In asabathu sarra shakar fakana khayran lah. When good times come to him, he is thankful, and it is good for him. Wa in asabathu darra sabar fakana khayran lah. And if bad times befall him, he is patient, and it is good for him. In some other narrations, the Prophet ﷺ repeated the same statement he made in the beginning, "Ajaban li amri al-mu'min, inna amrahu kullahu lahu khair." The affair of the believer is amazing. His whole affair is good, and that is only in the case of the true believer. So the two elements which are mentioned in this hadith are the elements of gratitude and patience. And in fact, we have some of the early scholars who wrote books just on gratitude and patience, these being the two elements for success. For Iman to be complete, both of these characteristics have to be internalized and implemented in our day-to-day life. Gratitude, something that I've been talking about in a number of different lectures here and elsewhere, is the difference between kufr and iman. The difference between belief and disbelief. If you listen to the atheists, Dawkins, Hawkins, and the others, Ayan Hirsi and her ilk, you will hear ingratitude coming out of their mouths in almost every sentence. Because for them, this world is all a product of accident. There was no God. There is no God. So if there's no God, who is there to be grateful to? Whatever has happened in this world, it's all by accident. It's my good luck, your bad luck. Why I have a good life, you have a bad life. I have money, you don't have money. They don't realize that when they attribute all of this that happens in their life to luck, from the time that you're born to the time that you get up in the morning till the time you go to sleep at night, there are so many things happening to you. Each thing is a product of good luck and bad luck. Why when you get in your car works? Why when you're driving down the road, you don't have an accident? Why when you get to your office, you're going in the elevator doesn't stall? Maybe fall 10 stories and you die. All of this. Why in your job you have a good boss? Why do you make good money? All the way back till you go to sleep at night. Why all of this? What's the answer to this big why? Good luck. So actually, what they don't realize is that they have God. Their gods are the God of good luck and the God of bad luck. And this is an ancient belief of the Romans and the Greeks. The goddess, it was actually a goddess, her name was Fortuna. That's where we say good fortune. I'm fortunate. It comes from Fortuna, the goddess of good and bad luck. So that's their God. Of course, you have to attribute what's happening to your life to something. In their mind, it's a blind force. In the people of the past, it was God. It was a goddess. So they have their God. And that's their God, the God of good luck and bad luck. Well, so, what is the difference between them and us? Well, the difference is that we actually believe in the true God. We believe that what happens to us is not random. It's not without decision, planning, etc. So you don't have to worship that God or goddess. They're blind forces, like the forces of nature. You don't worship the rain, the clouds which drop the rain. It just happens. So for them, there is no God, no need to show gratitude. All those who believe in God are in fact dangerous people. However, the product of this ingratitude in Western society, which has embraced secularism, a secular society, one in which God is removed from the affairs of state and organization, social interaction. God is removed. So, what is the consequence when we remove God? That affects the morality of the society. Because without God, how do we decide what is right and what is wrong? They say, by democracy. democracy is the instrument by which the secular society, the society who denies God, being the source of knowledge about good and evil, once you have removed that source, you replace it now with the majority vote, democracy. Where does democracy come from? It comes from ancient Greece, ancient pagan Greece, back there again. What does democracy mean? They say it means the rule of the people. Go back to ancient Greece. How was ancient Greece, functioning? How did they, in Athens, how did they make decisions? Well, the majority's opinion did become the rule or the basis for law of the state. However, that majority was not a true majority, because half of Greek society, more than half, were slaves. And slaves had no vote. The remaining 40%, half of them, more than half of them, were women. And women had no vote. So the remaining 15%, who were the free male Greek citizens of the citizen states of Greece, they were the ones who, the majority of their opinions became the law of the country. So, is that a good basis for deciding what is good for people and what is not? I'm sure the slaves wouldn't agree with their decisions. But that was the reality. And in fact, till today, that is how democracy functions. The majority doesn't really decide. So, what happens in a society where these decisions are made by a minority of the society is that those with the greatest influence, whether they're the wealthiest or from the most powerful families, rulers, etc., they're the ones who really make the decisions. So, what that means is that what is good today can be bad tomorrow. And what was bad today can be good tomorrow. That's what it means, if it's about the majority. So, for example, when I was in school, a long time ago, there was a book which had been written back in the 50s, actually, short time after I was born. That's telling you about how old I am. And that book was called The Catcher in the Rye. The Catcher in the Rye. When that book was first published back in the 50s, it was judged to be pornographic. It was judged to be corrupt. It had coarse words, all the swear words, F words, all these kind of words. And it described sexual acts in detail. These are the first books that are actually coming up. Prior to that, people didn't write those things in books. Public. There was under the table things. Well, this was published. Right? And in Canada, it was banned. The book was banned when it was first published. And for years afterwards. However, by the 70s, I know in Toronto, where I grew up, by the 70s, it became required reading for every high school student. In Toronto, it became required reading. What, 20 years before was banned because of its coarse language, corrupt content, and all these things became required reading for every high school student. To graduate, you had to read it. Or at least Cole's Notes version of it. Right? This summarized, but you had to read. Like Shakespeare. 20 years. How can that be? In the 60s, if you asked the average North American, what is your position on homosexuality? The average North American would say, back then, terrible, filthy, corrupt, sick. If they're very religious, they would quote the Bible saying it is an abomination unto the Lord. They should be killed. It's in the Bible. Homosexuals are to be executed. However, by the 70s, 10 years later, if you ask the same people of the society, what's your position? It had changed. People were saying alternative lifestyles. Different strokes for different folks. This is what they were saying. You know, I don't personally like it, but you know, if that's what people want to do, that's their business. This is what's happening. That is the product of atheism, the product of denying God, the product of ingratitude. Something which seems so simple manifests itself in the society in a huge way. In a huge way. And don't think that the story ends there. The story doesn't end there. In the US, for children in grade 2, there's a book called My Two Dads. My Two Dads. You know what that's about? Tommy has a dad and a mom. Johnny has 2 dads. Johnny's 2 dads are great guys. They take Johnny to the park, they take him to the beach, they take him everywhere. He has such a fun time with his 2 dads. In the UK, primary school kids, they have a book called The Prince. What's the story about the prince? In the book, the prince's father and mother, the king and the queen, they want him to get married. So they bring all these princesses, but now he doesn't like this one, he doesn't like that one, he doesn't like the other one. Finally he finds another prince, he likes him. You know, they're really close, they're good buddies, and you know, yeah. See what's happening? This stuff is now being fed into the minds of small children. You heard about Sodom and Gomorrah, Qawm Lut. Well, it's coming. On a scale, I pray I'm not around to see it. And this is the product of secularism, the product of denying God, which comes from the roots of ingratitude. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in describing gratitude, He said, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you are thankful to me, to Allah, I will increase whatever you are being thankful about. I'll give you more. وَلَئِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. But if you disbelieve, then my punishment will be severe. He described ingratitude as disbelief. وَلَئِن كَفَرْتُمْ. If you become disbelievers, then know that my punishment will be severe. And that punishment comes to us in a variety of different ways, not necessarily just what they call destruction of society, physical destruction, as it happened to the people of Lut in the past and other ungrateful, disbelieving peoples. But it comes in the society through depression. Ingratitude is one of the basic causes of depression, or it's a means of feeding people's depressed state. People who are depressed, you hear them always expressing ingratitude. This is no good, that is no good, nothing's good, I'm no good. They can't see good in anything. That is the nature of those who are depressed. And depression in North America is the cause of 75% of suicides. 75% of suicides are caused by depression. Every day, approximately 101 Americans kill themselves. 75 out of that 100 are killing themselves from depression. Every day. You're talking about, in a year, you're talking about 37,000 people killing themselves every year. This is not a joke. This is a curse. This is the consequence of ingratitude. Imagine, in Muslim civilization, a civilization built on gratitude, you don't have anything near those kind of numbers. Nothing near it. I mean, the idea of somebody killing themselves, usually it is only somebody who went mad. You know, you have mad people who don't have a consciousness of what's going on around themselves. Maybe they end up killing themselves, jumping off a building or something. This happens. But depressed people killing themselves? It's not something, it's something foreign to Muslim civilization. Something foreign. That's why you read the books of the scholars of the past, you'll not find them talking about it. It's not found. Because it's unthinkable. So, Allah's command for us to be grateful has individual benefit. Benefit which even Western psychologists, researchers have proven from their research, where they pointed out that grateful people, in studying people and their states, they pointed out that grateful people are happier, less depressed, less stressed, and more satisfied with their lives and social relationships. Grateful people have more positive ways of coping with the difficulties they experience in life. Grateful people also have less negative coping strategies. They don't resort to drugs. Grateful people sleep better at night. And they pointed out, in general, these are recent research, product of recent research, that gratitude has the strongest link with mental health of any character trait. Gratitude has the strongest link with mental health, meaning good mental health, being in a good state, of any character trait. It is that powerful. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it the very first words of our prayers 17 times a day. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. First thing we say is Alhamdulillah. So if that sense of gratitude is realized in our lives, and when it is, it protects us from depression. Those of us that are finding ourselves depressed know that the way out is through this. This is the way out. You can pull yourself out of it by becoming grateful, changing your worldview, how you look at your life, what is going on in your life. Now, on the other hand, we said that the other wing of faith is patience. And that one, I think most people recognize is critical to deal with the trials of this life. Because that's the nature of our lives. We're going from one trial to another. Allah tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. And certainly I will test you with something of fear, hunger, loss of wealth, lives, and fruits of your labor, but give glad tidings to those who are patient. Give glad tidings to those who are patient. Glad tidings of what? Glad tidings of success, glad tidings of paradise. الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Those who, when calamity strikes them, say, we belong to Allah and to Him we will return. Of course, now we only say that when somebody dies. That's what we're saying. But actually, that's not what Allah said in the Quran. He didn't say that that's the only time to say it. There's nothing wrong with saying it then. But we can also say it whenever anything goes wrong, doesn't come out word, right? To say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. This is our reminder that it all belongs to Allah. And of course, the surah which I had recited in Salatul Maghrib, Wal Asr, that's where it ends. Wal Asr begins with talking about the state of humankind. As time passes, all of humankind are in a state of loss. And then Allah goes on to explain, except for those who believe and do righteous deeds, and advise each other to be truthful, to hold on firmly to the truth, and advise each other to be patient. That's the key. And it is impatience which causes us to reach out for what Allah has prohibited. One of the biggest things that we are afflicted with is riba. And when you look at riba, and of course, riba used to be known as usury, right? Usury. Not a very nice sounding name. It was renamed by Satan as interest. Interest sounds a lot nicer. We say, that's interesting. This is in your interest to do that. Interest is nice. It doesn't have that coarse, harsh sound of usury. Interest. What did Satan do to Adam? After Allah told him, don't eat from the tree, Satan comes to Adam and tells him what? This tree is actually Shajaratul Khuld. He gives it a new name. He gives it a name when it was no name given to it at all. It was only known as a bad tree. He called it Shajaratul Khuld, the tree of eternal life. Oh man, Adam was caught. That's the satanic way. He beautifies what Allah has forbidden, what Allah has declared to be evil and harmful. He beautifies it so that it becomes so attractive. Everybody feel they must do it. Life is incomplete unless you did it. That's what he does. And due to our impatience, we fall into it. People say, well, you know, you pay mortgage after 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. What do you have to show? Nothing. But if you pay mortgage, at least after 20 years you own 20% of the building. The fact that you're paying actually 5, 10 times the price of the house, that's not relevant. Now, the fact is after 20 years you own a piece of that building. So, what is that? That's impatience. You feel you must have this. Even though Allah has told you, يَمْحَقُ اللَّهُ الرِّبَى. Allah has taken all goodness out of riba. But you're looking at what appears to you to be goodness. You have 20% of the house. You can't see the good in the fact that every cent that you pay in rent is a good deed, a righteous deed. Put on your scale of good deeds, multiply 10 to 700 times to benefit you on the day of judgment. You can't see that. All you can see is the piece of the property that you will have after 20 years. And Shaitan even makes it so appealing to people. You hear people say, actually, when you pay rent, which is the good thing, actually when you pay rent, you are paying for the owner of that building's mortgage. Yeah, you know, you're paying money and he's paying the mortgage for that place. So you're paying for his mortgage. You may as well pay for your own mortgage. See how Satan gets busy? Beautifies what is fundamentally evil. Makes it appear as something good. And of course, there are so many verses which decry impatience and call us to be patient. But in the end, how do we acquire patience? Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had said, ما أعطي أحد عطاء خيرا وأوسع من الصبر. No one has been given a gift better or vaster than patience. Some people are born and they just seem to be patient. It is a gift. The majority of us, no way. As Allah said, وَيَدْعُ الْإِنسَانُ بِالشَّرِّ دُعَاءَهُ بِالْخَيْرِ وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ عَجُولًا. Human beings pray for evil in their prayers for good. And human beings are forever impatient. That's most of us. So how do we develop patience? How can we become patient? Well, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had advised us, saying, وَمَنْ يَتَصَبَّرْ يُصَبِّرْهُ اللَّهُ. Whoever pretends to be patient, Allah will give them patience. Meaning that externally, you pretend to be patient. Things that you have to do. You really want to do it, but you stop yourself from doing it. Externally, you put on this show of patience. Though internally, you are really eager, you want to do. If you keep doing that, eventually, it will become a characteristic. I mean, of course, you're doing it not to impress people. Because if you do it that way, it won't become a characteristic. You're doing it because you want to achieve that characteristic of patience. So externally, you practice patience. Though internally, you are exploding in impatience. You force yourself. And if you do it the first time, it may be very difficult. Second time, it becomes a little easier. Third time, a little easier and easier till it becomes natural. Okay. That was the advice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we do that with small deeds, working our way up. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said that Allah loves from us, or Prophet Muhammad told us, that Allah loves from us consistency in our deeds, even though it be a small deed. This is better. Rather than trying to do, okay, I'm going to be patient about everything today, tomorrow, gone. Back to impatience again. No, take one thing from life and just deal with that one. If we can get over that one, or impatience in that one area, then we shift to another area and we build gradually, step by step. In the case of gratitude, we develop gratitude through recognition of Allah's favors in our lives. Being conscious of what is happening. As Prophet ﷺ told us, don't look to those above you. Look to those below you. Because it is better to help you realize Allah's favor in your lives. Look to those below. Because there's always somebody below. No matter what level we are on. Actually, theoretically, there's somebody at the very bottom. Right? But who knows where he is? Everybody else, for everybody else, there's somebody below us. Worse off than us. Having more problems than we have. Better to look to them. We look to them and realize, mashallah, Allah is merciful. You know, I'm so much better off. Recognize when we run across somebody who is disabled, etc., Prophet ﷺ told us to make dua, saying, thanking Allah from not putting us in the trial that that person is faced with. Thank Allah. So all the time we're looking around, thanking Allah is something. Thanking Allah when we finish eating. Thanking Allah when we're traveling in our cars. Thanking Allah. bring that into our lives on a regular basis. And as I pointed out before, among the areas of thanking Allah is after every prayer we're told to say Alhamdulillah 33 times. Saying it, reflecting on its meanings. Not just saying it as sounds, like the Hindus when they're worshiping, they worship with sounds. They have a sound called Om. And they repeat this sound in their worship. They say Om, 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 Om. It's like some people will say Who, 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 Who. Where do they get Who from? They say it's Allah Who. So they just take the Who part. So they say Who, Who, and they repeat this. Right? This is not our way of worship. That's the way of the Hindus and others. That's how they worship. But in the remembrance of Allah, some of us have done the same thing. Instead of saying Subhanallah, what do they say? Those who were in my lecture earlier yesterday, what do they say? Subhanallah. Subhanallah. This is not Arabic. Subhanallah. It's not Arabic. It's like Om. Subhanallah. Hamla. Akbar. So we're saying instead of Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, we've turned it into sounds. Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Akbar. So we can finish our tasbih as quickly as possible. See our impatience? We don't have the patience just to say Subhanallah. Think about it. Alhamdulillah. Reflect on it. Allahu Akbar. Realize it. No, it's so something so basic we're doing regularly, we need to bring this back into our lives as a real remembrance of Allah, dhikrullah, so that there will be real meaning to gratitude. We can truly become grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in all of our various acts of worship, and remembering that the acts of worship in general, as Allah said in the Quran, Aqim as-salah li dhikri, establish the prayer for my remembrance. The goal is dhikrullah, consciousness and awareness of Allah. One of the most obvious ways are through gratitude, because there's just so much around us, so many blessings that Allah has put in our lives. It is one of the easiest ways to realize the remembrance of Allah. And as Allah said, "Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub." And it is only with the remembrance of Allah that hearts find rest and contentment. This is the cure for depression. So, summing up what we said in the very beginning, that scholars of the past had referred to faith as being like a bird with two wings. Without those two wings, it cannot take off. With only one, it can't fly properly. It needs those two for flight. Gratitude and patience. Because our lives are between good things happening to us and bad things happening to us. That's what's happening. All day long, all week long, there are good things happening, bad things happening. So how do we deal with it? People who don't have this sense of gratitude and patience, when good things happen, they're overjoyed. And they forget Allah. They forget everything else. They're just overjoyed. And then, of course, bad things are going to happen because good things don't happen continually. When bad things happen, they're depressed. You know, the whole world is destroyed around them. They're just reacting, going to extremes, from this extremes of happiness, extremes of depression. And this is actually people who are diagnosed as what they call bipolar. You know, people who that's their characteristic. They go from extreme happiness to extreme depression. But you know, the reality is that most people are a version of that. They may not be to the point where in depression you're killing yourself, right? But life becomes intolerable, becomes very, very difficult. And that's why people are unable in these societies to appreciate the great good that is there around them. And they enjoy, happiness is found where? In drugs, or in sports, or in women, men, whatever, sex. This is where people find their happiness. And of course, all of that is limited. It's only good for a moment. You take the drug, you're fine when the drug's in your system. Once it's out, you're depressed. So you have to take it in again. When you're taking it, you become careless, you take things, you end up with diseases, HIV. Yeah. This is destruction. So this principle, which the scholars of the past identified and extracted from the Quran and from the Sunnah, this principle is part of the moral foundation of Islamic civilization. And this ultimately is what we have to offer the world today. We don't have the technology to compete with them. And it's Allah's qadr. You know, some people focus on that. Oh, you know, we have to keep moving ahead until we get the Khilafah and we're able to set up and we're become the rulers of the world again, and everybody has to come to us to learn from us, like in Andalus and Baghdad. No, not necessarily. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, after the defeat of Mecca and the establishment of Islamic rule in most of Arabia, was the Islamic State the height of technology? Rome and Persia, they were the height. They had all the technology and all those things there. So had that been the goal, then it would have happened in the time of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ as the example. That's fact. Had that been the goal, then we would be on the top of technology of the world. Then it would have happened in the time of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, but it did not. Muslims in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they took technology from the nations around them. They were not the top. They benefited from it. So that isn't the goal. The goal of the Islamic State is the establishment of a moral civilization, a true civilization, a nation of civilized people who are civil in their dealings with people. That is the goal. Of course, in their dealings with people, that is in the realm of people. But even more importantly, is their moral in their relations with God. And that is the ultimate goal. To worship Him as He alone deserves to be worshipped. That is the ultimate goal. When doing that, then we will be civilized in our dealing with people. And we will be civilized in our dealing with the world. Pollution we would not allow. We would take care of the earth. Because we know that that is a trust which Allah has placed in our hands. All of these things fall into place. without us necessarily being in the top of technology. Of course, it's possible we can reach that point too. There was Andalus, there was Baghdad, Damascus, so on, so these became centers of learning. But that's not the goal. So right now, that's where we should be focused. Focused on the moral imperative of Islam. That we live moral lives, we call to morality. As Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was only sent to perfect for you the highest of moral character traits. That's the sum of Islam. 6 pillars of Iman, 5 pillars of Islam, 2 pillars of Ihsan. All of it is about morality. Barakallahu feekum. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring us back to the path of gratitude and patience, to remove from our hearts impatience and ingratitude, and to keep us firmly on Sirat al-Mustaqim, protected from all of the satanic forces trying to take us from this path. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to leave this world breathing our last La ilaha illallah. A point to note that this talk about patience and gratitude, this depends on knowledge of the deen. The scholars identified this because of the knowledge which they sought and Allah had blessed them with. It gave them that insight to understand. Muslims today have deviated from this path because of the fact that Islam has become mostly tradition, customs that we do because we were born in families or areas of the world where they practice Islam. We really didn't choose Islam. So for most of us, we don't hardly know what Islam is. We just know what our parents did, what the people around us did in the village or in the town or in the city, in the country, and that's what we do. But that isn't really Islam. That was not what Muhammad ﷺ revealed to us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's not what he taught. That is something that has been handed down generation after generation, people adding, subtracting, until we have what we have today. And this is one of the big reasons why the Muslim world is divided up. People caught up in their various cultures, divided as a result of the colonial process into different countries, having different flags and anthems, etc. And for many of us, we come here to North America and we bring it with us. So we have mosques which are called Somali mosques, Croatian mosques, well, we have it in Toronto, Croatia, Bengali mosques, Pakistani mosques. And when we gather according to these same bases. You know, after the Jummah or after this gathering, as soon as we go out, then all the Arab brothers, they all get together, hang out. All the Pakistanis, they all hang out. All the Somalis together. What is this? This actually is modern day gangsterism. That's what it is. It's gangsterism. It's another version. And we will never succeed until we break that. break those bonds, where we hang out together, we gather together, based on Iman. That is the basis of Islam. And when we have a gathering, we have a walima, instead of inviting only members of the gang, right? What we do is, we come to the masjid, and the people who are in the first lines of the masjid, in Fajr you only have to look at one line. Maybe only a handful of people. These are the people that you invite first and foremost. After that, you can invite some members of the gang. This should be our attitude. This should be how we approach our socialization, our social gatherings, etc. And all of this, in the end, it goes back to really knowing Islam. If we don't know Islam, then that's how we're going to be, isn't it? You feel comfortable talking to people who talk the same way you talk. So naturally, you will gravitate towards people from your own ethnic background. But Islam, knowledge of Islam, takes us a step above, so that we gravitate, we come together based instead on Iman. So our close friends are those who we would like to be resurrected with on the Day of Judgment. Because Prophet ﷺ said, choose your friends well, because you will be resurrected with your friends on the Day of Judgment. So if that person was maybe from your same ethnic background, but you know he's corrupt, he's sick, he's involved in all kinds of stuff, but you talk the same language. Hey, if you don't want to be resurrected with him, then you better choose some other friends. Be very careful about this. And this kind of awareness, this comes from knowledge. Where do we get this knowledge? When I first came into Islam in Toronto, back in 1972, when he was born, the first people that I came in contact with were Jamaat Tabligh, who were 90% Pakistani. So I traveled with Jamaat Tabligh. At the end of my travels, 4 months, Ijtima, 30 days, all this stuff. When I finished all of that, and I gained the knowledge that was available there, I came back and informed my wife, we are Hanafis. She said, why are we Hanafis? Because, as I was told, the majority of Muslims are Hanafis. You may as well be with the majority. Then after I came back to Toronto, I moved into an apartment which was next to the masjid. And the imam of the masjid was from Egypt. So I started to study under him. He was teaching me fiqh sunnah and studying. Then I'm seeing these differences from what I learned when I traveled with the Jamaat Tabligh. And he was bringing evidences for whatever he was saying. So I asked him, well, what is this? He said, well, this is Shafi'i. Shafi'i fiqh. I said, this sort of makes more sense. Then, I later on came into contact with some brothers from Morocco. We became really close friends. And I found them doing other things. Praying with their hands by their sides. I said, well, what is this? They said, Maliki. Maliki. They were nice guys, I said, oh, hey, I thought Islam was just one. What is this? So I realized at that point, that's within the first year of my Islam, that I had to go and find Islam from the sources. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, lived the major part of his life as a prophet in Medina. That's the final part of his life, I should say, really, because the major part was in Mecca. Mecca was 13 years. So I said, let me try to go to Medina to study and gain Islamic knowledge. And alhamdulillah, having gone there, studied Arabic, and learned, I came to understand what all this Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali, and all these other things were. And then was able to put all these things into context and to realize, what really the madhab of Muslims should be. That it should be, in fact, the same madhab of Abu Hanifa. Because Abu Hanifa wasn't a Hanafi. The same madhab of Imam al-Shafi'i, who wasn't a Shafi'i. And Imam Malik, who wasn't a Maliki, and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who wasn't a Hanbali. That was the enlightenment that I gained. Their madhab was the madhab of Abu Bakr, whose madhab was what? The madhab of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. End of the story. Muslims need to come back there and remove all of the things which divide them. But it's going to be through knowledge. And that's why Prophet ﷺ had said, Talabul ilmi farida ala kulli Muslim. Seeking knowledge is compulsory for every Muslim. In order to ensure that they remain on the true deen of Allah. It is through knowledge. Knowledge is what gives us that clarity. Without that knowledge, then we end up in all the different Maliki, Hanbali, and all these different things. Not to say that to be a Maliki means you're off the path. No, I'm not saying that. But you understand where it fits in with the greater picture. You don't allow it to take us to the stage where they had it at one point 4 salahs going on around the Kaaba for hundreds of years. When the time for prayer came, they made the adhan. Then they would make the iqamah, and the Hanafi imam would stand under a structure called Maqam Hanafi. This was around, you see pictures, old pictures of the Kaaba before 1925. And you'll see these structures around the Kaaba. And they're named Maqam Hanafi, Maqam Maliki, Maqam Shafi'i, Maqam Hanbali. So the iqamah would be made, and Hanafi imam would stand up, and all the people who were in the haram, who were from the Hanafis, would pray behind him. When he was finished, then the Shafi'i imam would stand up, and all the Shafi'is would pray behind him. There were 4 salahs going on around the Kaaba for hundreds of years. It didn't end until the followers of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, the Wahhabis, as they're called, the bad guys, right? Until they came into Mecca and they tore it all down. And the Muslim world said, look at these people destroying all of our precious Islamic artifacts. Till this day, when people use the word Wahhabi, it means like an apostate, an evil enemy of Islam who hates Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is their concept, out of ignorance, blind ignorance. It ended on that day. And the benefits of it, the whole world now is taking blessing from. People are praying behind others, because once it happened in Mecca, people were coming from Hajj, they came back home, and these things went away. Even today in the main masjid of Damascus, you go there are 2 mihrabs, and you see it written above it, Mihrab Shafi'i, Mihrab Hanafi. They don't use it anymore, but it was from a time when they used to have 2 prayers in the masjid. And it was around the world. We still have some leftovers of it. Asr, some of the masjids you'll see, where there are Pakistanis and Bengalis using the same masjid. Pakistanis being mostly Hanafis, Bengalis being mostly Shafi'is. They will have 2 prayer times for Asr. Asr Hanafi, Asr Shafi'i. We still have some leftovers there. So how to remove all of this? It is through knowledge. To bring us back to one deen, the one deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Islam. In the past, people had to go on journeys. You read the life of Imam al-Shafi'i, he journeyed around the world, the Muslim world of his time. Today, alhamdulillah, Allah revealed the internet, also known as the fitna net. That's the downside. That internet has now made Islamic knowledge accessible on a scale never dreamed of before. Never dreamed of. If you were to tell somebody 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you tell them, back in the 70s, you know, it is possible to study the studies taught in Medina or Azhar completely in your house without even stepping outside of your front door. They would say, are you mad? Is that possible? No, it's impossible. You're crazy. That's just a dream. A crazy dream. Science fiction. Today, that is reality. It is possible to study Islamic studies in its completeness in your home without even stepping outside of your front door. I set up in 2007 the Islamic Online University, offering a diploma course in Islamic studies, free, absolutely free, no hidden costs, no hidden agenda, but spreading the knowledge of Islam. 2007, when we started, in March, we started with 0 students. By 2012, 5 years later, March, we have 60,000 students. Allahu Akbar. From 207 countries. That is every country on the face of the earth. In 5 years, that university became the university with the most diverse student body of any university in the world. Not any Islamic university, any university in the world. No other university can make that claim. And it's free. Absolutely free. So there is no excuse. Now, in the past, you could have excuses. Well, I had no chance. There was nobody knowledgeable, no access to knowledge, etc. Now, there is no excuse. You could go online, and this is not the only Islamic online university. There are university, Mediu University, also teaching in Arabic. Same thing, full. These courses in Islamic Online University are in English medium. You can find it in Arabic, mediu.com. You can find KIU from Riyadh, also online. Mishkat University in the States, American Open University. There are a number of universities available now where this knowledge is accessible to you. It is your duty to go and investigate them, choose the one which is most suited to your circumstance. Mine, Islamic Online University, is the only one that's free. That's why I have so many students. Everybody else has only like 2,000 or so students. 60,000 because it's free. And 207 countries because Muslims are everywhere. Alhamdulillah. We also offer a BA in Islamic Studies, which started 2 years ago. And that is tuition free, meaning you don't pay for your classes. You don't pay for your classes. There is a small fee, $120, for registration for each semester. In Mishkat University, you pay $150 for one class. One course costs you $150. Islamic Online University, the whole semester you take 6 courses for $120. Means you can get a BA degree, which is accredited, for $960. That cheap. But most importantly, the program is and contains the knowledge that you will find in Al-Azhar, the knowledge you will find in Medina. It's there. Provided. Complete. Full-scale study. A lot of times people think internet means, easy stuff. You pay the money, you get the degree. No. It's serious study. But it is tailored study. You can tailor it to your own timings. There's flexibility. You're working. So, in the times when you're working, you can take the lectures, you can put them on and play them in your car or whatever, in your office, whatever. You can listen to it when you have free time. Or you leave it to the night or the weekend or whatever. You are able to study at your convenience. So nobody has the excuse now that we didn't have time. Wal asr. Remember, wal asr. Time. Allah swears by it. Because most people waste their time. As the Prophet ﷺ had said, نِعْمَتَانِ مَغْبُونٌ فِيهِمَا كَثِيرٌ مِنَ النَّاسِ. There are 2 great blessings of Allah which most people are deluded about. الصحة والفراغ. Good health and spare time. For a Muslim, there is no such thing as spare time. We don't have time to spare. In the West, they call it time to kill. We don't have that time. As Allah told us, فَإِذَا فَرَغْتَ فَانْصَبْ. Once you finish worshiping Allah in one way, then you shift to worshiping Him in another way. Because all of our lives is supposed to be worship. So whether we're playing sports, we're picnicking, we're at work, we're at home, all of it is supposed to be worship of Allah. If we're doing whatever we're doing in a way which is pleasing to Allah, then we're worshiping Him. So this, the Islamic Online University, provides you with knowledge to ensure that your day is one done pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I encourage any of you who would like to join the courses to study in the BA. We have only a few brochures here, and they can't be just passed out like that. So the first people who come up right now can come and get the brochure. If you're interested, step up right now, take it.
We even have a binder if they want to write their names.
Yes.
Anybody who's interested?
Further, once these are run out.
Yeah. Either now or after have questions now. The sisters can write down some questions now if they have. We're going to take some questions now with Sheikh. Barakallahu feekum.
Don't go there.
Brochure is finished. Okay, we have some posters here, which is just a summary of it.
In the back.
Available at the back of the masjid. You can pick them up, or if you want to take them, take them. First question from the sisters. I am 16 years old, a girl who fasts the fast of Prophet Dawood. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. My mother does not like me doing so and says that I will be questioned as to how I treated my body on the Day of Judgment. So should I listen to my mother and just fast Mondays and Thursdays, or should I continue? Also, my mind is completely set on wearing the niqab because I feel that it is wajib. My father does not mind, but my mother does not want me to. Can you give me some advice on how to deal with the matter? Well, in terms of the fast of Dawood, that is fasting every other day. And Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, had given that as the maximum for those people who wanted to fast more. When people came and said they wanted to fast every day, he forbade it. He forbade the fasting every day. And he said for them, if you want to do that much, then the fast of Dawood. So that fasting would not become a complete routine. See, what's going to happen? If you fast every day in Ramadan, it's like you get used to it. The first couple of days in Ramadan, you're still adjusting. And after a while, you slide into this standard mode, right, where it's automatic. Right? You just switched your eating times and your fasting time. Before, you used to fast at night. You had break fast in the morning, right? Now you fast in the daytime, you break your fast at sunset. So you just shifted into another mode. And so it became relatively easy. Now if you fasted all your life like that, then you wouldn't even start to feel the effects of fasting anymore. It would be gone. So by you fasting one day and not fasting the next day, and then you fast the day after, then you're not fasting, so your body never gets a chance to become in automatic. Right? Set it on automatic pilot and just sail. You don't have the chance. But we have to consider, my little sister, did Prophet Muhammad ﷺ fast the fast of Dawood? You have to consider. He didn't. That was not his example. He just said, for those people who feel they needed to do more, then okay, maximum the fast of Prophet Dawood. But the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is better. The sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ is better. To fast Mondays and Thursdays, the 13th, 14th, and 15th. 13th is when? Tomorrow. Every month, Prophet ﷺ recommended the 13th, 14th, and 15th of the lunar calendar. That's tomorrow, day after, and the day after that. And the 2 days, Monday and Thursday, of every month, of every week. That was the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ. And that's what he practiced, that's what he encouraged, and that's what Allah said, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. There was in the message of Allah for you the best of examples. So it means then that fasting Mondays and Thursdays in the 3 lunar, the days of the full moon, 13th, 14th, and 15th, this is superior to fasting every other day. So, my advice to our little sister, you have to ask yourself, why do you want to fast the fast of Dawood instead of the fast of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam?